Welcome back to Today on Bay TV, and hello if you're joining us online. I'm Rachel Hopkins and I'm joined by Andy Morgan and Richard Beale from the Swansea Ramblers. Hello both, lovely to see you again.
Good to see you.
Both keeping well?
Yes, thank you.
So tell us, what have you been up to this week? Change now, we're well and truly into autumn, aren't we? So
We are, and we're looking forward to it. You can see the leaves are now falling, they're all changing, and we're getting ready for autumn, followed by winter.
Beautiful time of year, beautiful colours.
Beautiful, yes.
You must see a lot of different animals, different birds, different terrain.
Robins, that's the thing you associate with autumn and winter. And we had a walk up at Dinever Park on Wednesday. I didn't go myself, but I'm told it was lovely because all the leaves are changing.
And similarly, one on Monday in Pentlegare Forest. Again, that was a shorter walk, an easier walk with friends, which we try and get people to come and try walking with us. And that was good as well because the leaves were already on the ground. Some of it's coniferous forest, but the other parts, plenty of leaves on the ground. It did feel like autumn. Yeah, it's quite a cool breeze as well.
Yes, which is quite pleasant when you're walking about, isn't it? You say a shorter walk in Pentlegare Forest. What's short when?
That was about 3 miles, that one was.
Oh, so that's very doable. It's a
we tried
nice
to
little
do
taster.
them, 2 to 4 miles.
So nobody needs to be put off, then anybody can come and join.
We try to be inclusive as many people as we can.
Absolutely. Yes. So we're going to take a little look at what you've managed to capture over the last couple of weeks, and then we'll have another chat. Let's take a look.
Okay. Right, now this is a group that walked last Saturday in the pouring rain in Bishopston. So we're starting here at Merton, and the leader there is Clive. He'll actually be leading a Boxing Day walk this year, so perhaps we'll tell you about that in a week or two. But he's going to take us through the pouring rain on a lovely walk, actually, but it's going to be very muddy in the Bishopston Valley, and he's telling us all about it. And in a moment now, this is a view of Pwllheli Bay. I think it's pretty murky, and it was horrible wet, as you'll see a little bit later on. This is Brandy Cove, and he's continuing now to tell us about where we're going to go. And he's pointing over now to Bishop's Wood, which you can see now, which is a hidden woodland. It's got an ancient chapel in ruins there. It's got even a hobbit house. People so live there like hippies. Yeah. And it's quite an interesting little place, but it's hidden away at the back of Caswell. So we're going
I remember it from when I was growing up. My grandmother lived in Merton, and so all those surrounding places where we used to go and play.
Yeah.
It's a lovely part of Swansea.
It is, and it's hidden away. And this is at the back of the Joiners pub. And if you know Bishopston, there's 2 pubs either side of the road. But there's this footpath right to the side of the Joiners, and it drops to the top of the Bishopston Valley. And we had the option to go down into the bottom of the valley by the river, but it's extremely muddy down there. So what we decided to do was to stay up on the top path where it's a little less muddy.
So are they wild horses?
Well, they're in the field.
Very brave.
And they don't see many people, so they were quite keen to see us. So she had to leave behind that gate, so we couldn't take them with us, unfortunately. No.
You don't always see horses, do you?
No, you do see them. You have lots of animals, cows, sheep, etc. So it was a bit of fun. We like it. But this is the wood itself now. We passed along the top path of the wood, and we're actually going to come out of Bishopston Wood, and we went along the road, and we're heading towards the cliff face for Pwllheli. And here we are at Pwllheli. And as you can see, the rain is pouring down at this moment. If you could hear it, you could actually just hear it hitting away onto everything. And it's pretty miserable if you didn't have the right clothing. But you can see we're dressed up in our waterproofs, and we're still enjoying it and having a laugh.
Well, it's invigorating, isn't it? You're having the fresh air, very, very sort of healthy. I bet you all slept well that night.
Yes, yeah. It's just fun to be out, and people don't realise that. And if they look out the window and think, oh, it's raining, we won't go out. Well, here we are. Some people might say, look at those mad fools. We're enjoying ourselves. You're the mad one to stay in the house, and it's fresh air, exercise, and as I say, it's invigorating to be out in the rain. And we do it.
Very good for you, isn't it?
As well in the winter, we go out in all weathers.
It's very pleasant when you get back then home at the end of it, or you go to the pub, or maybe you go home and you get a hot shower and you change, and it's you feel, oh, I've achieved something. It's really a nice feeling then.
Yeah. Never more grateful for a mug of hot tea or coffee and your sofa, are you?
Yeah. And you always keep clothes in the back of the car for when you get back from the walk, quick change, and into the pub.
It is all about what you're wearing and having the right gear, isn't it? Yeah. Relatively inexpensive these days, isn't it? You can pick things up even second hand if you want to give it a try or borrow some stuff.
Yes, you can start off with just the sort of cheapest sort of clothes, and if you really get into the habit, then like any sporting thing, you probably buy something a little bit more expensive.
Yes. Yes.
But for people just to try it, you know, just get yourself something that's waterproof. Good footwear is the major thing.
Yes.
You know, something with a good tread. And well, I see most of us have got sticks there. Well, you don't have to have a stick, but in muddy conditions, it can help it steady you. We're coming down now for a lunch stop on Brandy Cove. And as its name suggests, this is where they used to smuggle in the old days. And you might just catch a glimpse. That white square box is where one of the mines would have been. Either silver or lead mine.
Lead mine, I think.
The Romans used to mine for silver there.
So you...
And here's a cormorant we passed on the way.
You get to know a lot of local history as well.
You do, yes. And we get some knowledgeable leaders. So over the years, you pick up the snippets, and it's very interesting. And you don't get bored of the same walk. I mean, here's Caswell. I mean, how many people have sunbathed on Caswell but wouldn't think about walking across it on a wet, windy day like that? It's fun.
I used to have dogs and I used to walk down the beach all the time. And I actually preferred days like this because it was quieter and I could really sort of get away from it all.
Yeah.
But it was a great social event, everybody chatting, must be great for mental attitude these days.
Yes, it is, and especially socialising. You know, people have lost their partners and for one reason or other don't have any friends. I moved to an area.
Yes.
And meeting a group like this is one way of making new friends and getting those connections.
I think we're becoming more and more aware of mental illness, people with loneliness for one reason or another, as you mentioned. So something like this, I mean, it's accessible to everybody, isn't it? You know, I mean, a lot of people, I can see why they'd be intimidated going to perhaps a busy gym, even though they don't need to be. But this is probably a lot easier.
It's a lot more
scary
fun.
at first, but you're very friendly, aren't you? They just need to email.
This is it, you know, if you listen to some of the videos, and a lot of them are on YouTube, what you hear is the laughter and the joking and the talking. It's the camaraderie, you know. They really enjoy it. Sometimes they don't even look at where they've been, you know, which is a shame because you plan out a walk and you think, it's a great view here, and you look back and later on, stop,
do you enjoy the views?
What views?
I was just looking at Margaret while I was talking to her.
But they still enjoyed it, and that's what they get out of it, the enjoyment and the friendship.
And once they made the first step, no pun intended, they find that people, as Andrew says, are welcoming, and that we make a particular point of doing that when new people come along. And once they've got to know a few people, they go on another walk, and the same people, they get to know more and more. It just spins out from there. Most people come back, because the last thing we want to do is to frighten them off by having a walk that's too hard, too fast, or whatever. And we always encourage people who are interested, ring up the leader first, check on the walk, see if it's for you or not. The leader will go at the pace of the slowest person, you know, so don't worry about that. And that generally works, doesn't it? And we get a lot of people coming back then and joining. And we've actually just hit 400 members the first time for quite a long time. I've been in it 5.5 years, and it was under 250 then. It's not down to me, but it's just the way we've developed our programme with a variety of walks, different lengths and different days, I think, has drawn people in then.
And the social events again for the camaraderie. So even people who can't walk anymore can still come to the social events.
So you have
enjoy a meal out.
Events.
Yes.
Yeah, meals out and so on.
Oh, lovely.
Christmas lunch, of course. That's
that'll be coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. No walk either. Straight to the lunch.
So no walk then?
No.
That's sort
only
of
dressed in their finery.
And what about when you go out for a walk? Do you I saw that you stopped and had lunch, packed lunch it was. This day, was it? Do you ever sort of stop at local pubs, or are there too many of you, I suppose?
Occasionally there's a pub lunch walk. Generally we keep it to the end of the walk, where people can have refreshments.
Don't want to do much after a big
We've got a pub lunch coming up at the Beaufort. I can't remember when. It's in a few weeks' time.
It is Beaufort of Kittle,
so have a look at our programme. It's on the website, swansearamblers.org.uk. The programme's there, just scan through. If you're interested in a walk, well, just give us a ring up and ask about it.
And I'm sure it's transformed some people's lives, from their health, from their social life.
As I've said before, there's a lady had a garden on a slope, couldn't walk from the bottom to the top. Now she runs up. We've had to go up Pen y Fan. She is transformed.
We've got some walks coming up as well. We've got one on Saturday over in Neath in the Knoll Park. It's a 6-mile walk, one of our regular Saturday walks. A longer one on Sunday then, Mynydd Myddfai and the Usk Reservoir, so north of Brecon. And that's a more testing one. That's a 10, 11-mile strenuous one. One of the features of interest are the sites of Roman camps up there. And the leader was a professor of medieval history in Swansea University, so he's very knowledgeable, and he's done this walk before.
It's going to be
makes it very interesting. Yeah.
And you say the the second one is 10, 11 miles.
Yes.
How long will that take you then?
Yeah, about 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours.
Work on 2 miles an hour as an average.
Yes. Yeah.
So if anyone's trying to work out, when they see the mileage, just sort of divide it by 2 and you know approximately.
And are some of you first aid qualified and something in case, you know?
Actually doing it last night.
We were, yes.
Yeah, we've got a 2-night first aid course. Last
so you're
night was
learning
the
all
first one,
sorts of
tomorrow
new
next one.
skills
Oh, yes.
while you're going along.
And revisiting old ones because we keep doing it so we don't go stale.
Thanks for coming in both. Enjoy the walks this weekend. We'll see you next week.
Certainly.
And we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Rachel Hopkins and I'm joined by Daniel Llewellyn Williams and our very own Keith Millward. Hello both. Thank you for joining us, Daniel.
Thank you for having me.
So you're here to talk about the tour that you're in at the moment. You're a very busy man, aren't you? But tell us what you're in right at the moment.
I'm doing a play called Not About Heroes via my own theatre company, which is called Flying Bridge Theatre Limited. And we're touring the UK. We opened in Edinburgh in August, and now we're doing the Welsh leg of the tour, South Wales leg of the tour, and we're in the Taliesin this week. And then we're going on to England and then on to North Wales after that.
It's quite a long tour. And tell us a little bit about Not About Heroes, because it's got a very interesting story behind it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the main themes are sort of threefold in it. It's a story about war, the First World War, the pity of war. It's about the friendship between Siegfried Sassoon and Wilfred Owen, the war poets. There's another theme in the play because the men fell in love. But actually the play is really about their mutual hatred of war and their drive to try and inform the people at home of the atrocities that were happening on the front line, because the propaganda machine of the First World War, military propaganda machine, and the sort of social environment at the time was that people just didn't talk about their experiences. This was before modern mental health treatment. So all of these guys came back with what we now know as PTSD. At the time, it was a new thing called shell shock. Previous to that, it was called cowardice, and men were shot for it. And so these people, they didn't want to talk about the appalling things they'd witnessed and their friends lost. Because they didn't want to infect their loved ones with their sadness. Well, we now know that the treatment for these sort of conditions is counsel and actually talking through and a catharsis of one's experience. But at the time, they saw it as a physical thing because it sort of manifests itself in physical tics and terrible afflictions. And I
think people still find it difficult to understand these afflictions because it's not something that can be seen or touched or healed. But it definitely is good that it's becoming more and more, everybody's becoming more and more aware of it. World War I was a dreadful war, wasn't it? And of course, this tells a little bit about the story. Yeah.
It was termed at the time, I think, or recently afterwards, the war of flesh and metal. And there was only one substance would yield. And, the amount of, as we all know, the amount of injuries and mortality in that war was absolutely appalling. And the fallout of the PTSD echoed throughout generations, and then almost immediately after we had another war. Within another generation, we had another terrible war, and we're still sort of just suffering the echoes of that now in Britain. I think in my parents' generation, they still they grew up with rationing, etc., etc. The play's also about poetry. And that's kind of like the vehicle for the play to get its message across, because these two men were right at the pinnacle of First World War poetry, especially Wilfred Owen.
So in a lot of ways, they couldn't say how they felt, but they were very good at writing down. I think they were educated differently, and they developed their writing skills so well that they wrote a lot of poetry that told us a lot about it, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah. And going back to that thing about catharsis and counsel, it was a method. These men were encouraged to write, actually, because they spent hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours in the trenches with shells going off around them, nothing to do except entertain themselves with a little notepad and a pencil. And so they would write and write and write. And actually, the pioneering treatment for PTSD actually happened in Craig Lockhart Hospital in Edinburgh, which is where these two men met.
Yes.
And
yes, I watched the play last Tuesday in Pontedour Arts Centre.
Oh, right.
And it is particularly compelling because of the setting, but obviously this friendship relationship between the two poets, and it's so deeply portrayed by the two of you in the play. And I must say, your acting is just superb. It's a stylized speech, isn't it? But you tune into. It's like many pieces of theatre, and it's not all sadness because it's so much of an emotional journey that you take with these two men. And as you say, you talk about the PTSD and the shell shock. You see that first-hand experience then as regards the play, but came away. Felt educated by it, and in a strange way, uplifting, but because of the emotion, because of the love between these two poets. Yes, very, very well done.
And this was all put on by your own company?
Yes, we didn't write this play, but we often write our own work. So Flying Bridge Theatre Company began 2013. Our first production is called A Regular Little Houdini, which I've been touring that for the last 5 years, and I'm about to take it to New York in December, just off Broadway. Yeah, that play is about, we have a real sort of drive for social awareness and education within the confines of entertainment. We don't want to be lecturing people, but we do want people to walk away feeling that they have learned something whilst being moved and laughing and maybe crying. Our work is getting, is beginning to gain recognition now, and this is the kind of work we do, and we do modern stuff as well.
And you've done television, you've done a lot, and an awful lot of stuff, but you're very passionate about theatre in particular, aren't you?
Yeah, I spent the first 15 years of my career working for other companies, doing TV and film and lots of theatre and West End stuff, and I found that when I'm working for other people, I don't have that freedom of choosing my roles, and the work that I really enjoy doing is stuff that touches people. And so I began writing, and then I thought, what better way to continue to write and put on my work or work that I want to do than to create a company. And we've had an amazing boon this year. Last year, Tim Baker, who used to run Theatre Clwyd. I'm pointing that way because over the bay over there, that's where oh no, it's that way. Theatre Clwyd in North Wales.
That's a Welsh thing, isn't it? Using our hands.
Yeah, so he co-ran Theatre Clwyd for 20 years and used to run the Clwyd Youth Theatre. He ran National Youth Theatre of Wales. So he's come on board because he and I have a very similar vision for the kind of work we want to do, and we want to build new audiences as well, because people are leaving the theatre. Young people, I think, don't trust the theatre, especially in Wales. In the working class areas of Britain, people assume there's a sort of highbrowness about the theatre. And I mean, I know, most people will look at this and say, oh, a play about two First World War poets is very dry. But actually, as you saw, it's very touching, and if you like films, if you like moving material, you will like our work.
I studied World War I in English, in history. So is it something that would be beneficial for school children and, around that sort of age, or anybody studying, doing degrees in history and the likes of?
Definitely.
I believe so. And it's, it's a real case study of that relationship between artists with a voice and how they fitted into the world which was then governed by propaganda around war. Now we have social media, and that presents its own problems because it can be manipulated very easily, actually, and people assume that it's freedom of speech in its pure form, but it isn't. Because when you find out that your feed is only going to be presenting you with views of people who have the same view as you, then nobody's learning. No. So I think as a social historian, which I am at heart as well, I find all of this stuff fascinating, and education is definitely underpins our work
and gets people talking as well, doesn't it? And you say about the Little Houdini. Tell us a little bit about that as well.
A Regular Little Houdini is a play I wrote in 2013. It's about my father. It encapsulates the spirit of my father, who grew up in Beale in Newport, which is the docks of Newport. His parents and his family were dockers. It's a play about poverty. It's a play about aspiration. It's a boy who, a docker's son in the early 1900s, who obsesses about Harry Houdini and wants to emulate his hero. And Harry Houdini had a similar sort of background as well. This boy is an Irish immigrant. This Houdini himself was a Hungarian immigrant.
And you wrote this?
I wrote that, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's an amazing imagination with everything else that you've got going on. And writing's been relatively quite quick for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the things that move me as well, and not just education, is magic and hope and wonder and entertainment. And this boy is...
Thank you so much. I hope you come back next time you're visiting Swansea. Thank you all for joining us. Next for our afternoon matinee movie. Today, it's the fourth part of The Big Valley, starring Richard Long.